Today, I'm going to be upgrading some key components here in the home theater. Let's go. Hello again, everybody. Welcome to Rusty Brown Photography. I am Rusty. So glad you guys are here. Today, we're doing something a little bit different. I'm doing some upgrades here in my home theater. And before I got too deep into it, I thought this would be a good opportunity for me to bring you along, tell you a little bit about the home theater, how it got to where it is, and then what I'm doing here today, right? So in essence, what I'm going to end up doing is there's some key components inside the rack that I'm going to be replacing that have been here for a while. I'm also going to be replacing this 1080p projector. Before we get into the specifics of all of that, before I get too deep into this upgrade, let me show you a quick clip of what it looked like in here before I started making these changes. So there you have it. That's what the room looks like in the current configuration, which is a basically, I want to say it's a 5-to-1, but it's sort of kind of a 7-to-1 because the front speakers here are currently bi-wired. I want to talk about the room a little bit, so that's why I'm all the way back here. I was at the other end where the camera is now during the opening. Now I'm up by the screen to give you an idea of context with regards to this screen. This is a 92-inch screen. I'll give you the specifics on it in just a second. If we go end to end this direction, going across, the room is 12.5 feet, and lengthwise it is 16.5 feet. The upgrade that I'm doing now is the first one in 10 years, but the first iteration of the room was 19 years ago, right? So 2006, when we had the home built, this room was built for this purpose, to be a screening room or a media room. And it's evolved over time. In the mid 2000s, when Maria was still in school, we had more chairs here. She would have her friends stay over. They'd watch movies, play games, do whatever. And then you fast forward now, all these years later, she's married with kids of her own. When they come, my grandkids just kind of hang out on the floor and watch whatever movies they're doing. So this was designed with this for the sole purpose of watching movies. So I gave you the width and the length. Also talked briefly about it being a 5-to-1. So I have the two fronts, I have two rears, I have this center channel, and I have one subwoofer, which we're going to be changing. In the front, all of my speakers are Polk Audio. I did order those originally when the room was first built in 2006. It's one of the things that's been here from beginning to end and will always be here because I just think the sound's amazing. These are called Monitor 70 series, the ones in the front. When you take the grill off, you can see it's really nice. In the back today, I have what's called the Monitor 30 series, a smaller bookshelf. And what I'm going to be bringing back into the theater are the Monitor 40s. So I had all 7 when the room was first built. We just had a television, though. It wasn't I didn't have a screen. I did not have a projector. In 2016, I did another modification, you could say, to the room. I had it extended. So it used to be 12.5 by 14. I extended it another 2.5 feet that way because I wanted a little more length, and I thought that gave the right perspective. Let me pivot for a minute and talk about perspective. The reason that this screen is 92 inches and not bigger is because for this room, for a room that is 12.5 by 16.5, this is the perfect view span. And there are certain studies you can do that can show you how much information your eyes and your brain can see at any given time. And it's interesting that when I first started putting the room together, a lot of folks were like, but you have all this room. You should put a 120, 130 inch screen up there. But that's not the case. So based on a throw of 16.5 feet, and if you subtract another foot, let's say for the back of the recliner you're in, you're actually 15.5 feet away from the screen. And the sweet spot for that is 77 to 100 inches for the brain. So for me, 92 inches is fine. That screen, we did put it in after I expanded the room. So that's only been here now for 9 years. Same thing with the projector. So after I extended the room, that's when we put up the projector here, we put up the screen there. That's when I brought in the Sanus rack. I started separating the power distribution for all the components, because back in the day, like I said, in 2006, there was just a big television kind of here on a stand, and I just stacked the components here. Now I'm actually measuring power for all the different units through a rack, and I think it's a lot cleaner. The 3 major components that are being upgraded, let's talk about them. Now I'll show you these now, and I will get into the specifics of each one. So as you can see here, I am changing to a 4K receiver, another Sony. I will give you the specifics as we go through that. I'm also upgrading to a 4K projector. So again, I'm really moving from a 1080p environment to a 4K environment. The projector and the receiver are 4K compatible. But what I'm also doing now is I'm bringing in a second subwoofer, which I had in another part of the house, and I'm bringing back 2 bookshelf speakers that are actually bigger than the ones I have mounted on the wall today. So this is going to bring me back to a 7-speaker configuration. These speakers are called Monitor 40s, and I have them on stand. So those will come in. Those are the things that I'm going to be changing. I'll be pulling out the old gear, putting those things in. Let's talk about the why. First and foremost is because now there's more content available in 4K. Streaming content primarily, meaning your Apple TV Plus, and every other streaming service out there now has some element of 4K streams that didn't exist nearly as much 10 years ago, which was the last time I did any form of an upgrade. Even though the why is so that I can now process more 4K content here in the theater, this will not alter my position on physical media. Those of you that know me know I'm a physical media enthusiast. I have a lot of Blu-rays, as you can see here. I want to say it's slightly over 325 titles. I love the Blu-ray because of all the extra bonus content that we get, and that's important to me. I like to see how the movie was made, what the director's thoughts were, what gear was used, all that kind of stuff. And on a similar note, I'll say that a buddy of mine, I've had the conversation about the differences in how much data can come across in a stream versus what's on physical media, and that's my good friend Duane. There's nothing wrong with streaming, and 4K streaming is good, but it can be a little bandwidth intensive. And if you have a lot of different things pulling on your home internet service, that may be something that could cause some of the data to not come the way it was meant to come in a stream, if that makes sense. Meaning, on a Blu-ray disc, it's going directly from the disc and the player connected via HDMI to your receiver, connected to whatever output you have, and there won't be any lag. So I believe that the soundtracks, I believe that your Atmos, especially where the audio is concerned, I just think that it's a little bit better coming from a physical disc. So that's me. I'm a physical disc person, will continue to be. And because I'm a Blu-ray person, and those Blu-rays are 1080p. I'm fine with that too. I don't plan on jumping into the 4K UHD Blu-rays. I do have a couple here, both James Cameron, both got them in 2024. This one, The Abyss, 4K Ultra HD, I love that one. And this one is Aliens, which I think is the best of the Alien franchise. These were both put on 4K UHD disc platforms in 2024, but they also came with a Blu-ray version. So in a case like that, if it's an older movie that was not on Blu-ray before and I'm adding it to the collection and it comes through in a 4K, by all means, I can play it now in 4K because of the new Blu-ray player that's coming in will be 4K compatible as well. So that kind of gives you a little bit of the background and a confirmation that between Dee and I, we just love movies. We consume them differently. Dee actually has a channel. I'll put a link in the description where she reviews movies every week. It's called Have You Seen It? SCENE, where she goes and she watches movies and she gives her critique or opinion of said movies. So she's in a movie theater at least once a week, sometimes more, and she streams a lot. You know, a movie comes out on Netflix or these other platforms, Apple TV Plus, etc. She watches movies that way. Whether it's a TV series or a movie that I want to see, I wait for the Blu-ray. I want to be able to come in here any given day and just get lost, right? Whether it's in the movie, in the TV series, in the characters, whatever, in the sound, in the music, all of it. I've probably been a home theater enthusiast now for over 30 years. Like I said, this room is dedicated to that, but I've always been one to try to at least separate the sound just from television. I've never used the speakers that come in the TV. I always run some type of connection. If you look at the rec room, which is also doubles down as the sports area, this is where I watch most sports or most things. That's pretty much what this room is for. And even in this room, I have a nice 5:1, really simple setup in there, right? I have a Sony Bravia 65-inch flat screen, a simple receiver, Yamaha RX V373. Up in the front, two Technics SB CR77 front speakers and the CR55 in the rear with an infinity center channel and a pretty simple Sony SAW305 subwoofer. I've had the speakers in that room since the mid to late 90s, so over 30 years ago. They don't make them like that anymore. What I'm going to do next is I have to pull the Sanus rack out. I'm going to take the older items out. I'm going to put the new ones in. I'm going to bring in the two new bookshelf speakers. I'm going to bring in the second sub. I'm going to wire all that up. A buddy of mine, Charles, is on his way over, and then he and I are going to take the projector down, put the new projector up, calibrate it to the screen. And again, let me tell you about the screen. I have the original receipt from 2016. This particular screen is called Screen Innovations 5 Series Pure Gray Zero Edge 92-inch projector screen. So pure gray, so that it absorbs all of the colors and things that are thrust upon it from the projector. Zero edge is just that, you know, no real bezel on it. When I got this in 2016, it cost $2,270. So before Charles gets here, I want to get all that stuff done. Speaking of which, my buddy Charles is also a home theater enthusiast. And that show that I told you about that Dee, you know, is on every week called Have You Seen It? When that show first started, Charles was her co-host because he's also a lover of movies. Every year they would do a show dedicated to the Oscars, right? And so I would try to shoot that show differently. I think the first time they did it, I actually shot it in this room. So they get all dressed up and they go through their Oscar predictions, which was pretty cool. And you get to see them in an environment that is, you know, that is conducive to theater and movie watching. Well, here's a quick clip from a few years ago when I shot the Oscars show in Charles's home theater, and you'll get to see a little bit about how his theater looked too. Thanks. Let's get to it. All right, is this thing on? Is it on? I think it's on. Let's see what we got going here. Oh, hello again, everybody. Welcome back. So when I left off, Charles and I were doing the installation of the actual projector, which was a couple of days ago now, right? I'm literally just getting in the house. Dee and I went down to Greensboro, North Carolina to catch a college basketball game. Now that I'm retired, I do get to see more college games, and I really enjoy that. I've already seen my beloved Tar Heels play this year, which is great. I love to see them. But what we did this weekend was we went down to UNC Greensboro to see a former player, a former student athlete of mine, who is now a grad student. Right? He's been out of high school for a while, got his degree at George Mason, and he's doing a grad year of basketball at UNC Greensboro, the Spartans. So we went down there to watch them play against Furman. Great game. Shout out to my guy, Ronald Polite, just a super good kid. I say he's a kid. He's 23, 24 now. Just a super good kid, always has been, exceptionally bright, doing his graduate work there and still playing basketball, which is a great thing. So it was so good to be able to see him, and have a quick weekend down there. So we're literally just getting back in now from the game, and I wanted to come in and wrap this up. So hang on a sec. Let me get right. All right, let's put that over there. I got the coach's clipboard. Oh, I do have a cold one. Stand by one. Great. Hey, Cheers to you guys. Hope you're having a happy new year. So obviously I got the coach's clipboard. Let's wrap up with where we were a couple of days ago. We pulled the old gear that was coming out, which was a Sony STR DN1060 receiver. And I need to make a correction. When I opened up the video, I think I said that one of the primary reasons of doing this upgrade is because the old system wasn't 4K compatible. Not true. This receiver, the DN1060, it has Bluetooth, 4K, DTS HD, and Dolby True HD. So it could pass a 4K signal. However, what it didn't have, DTS:X, Dolby Vision, Dolby Atmos. Also as a plus, it had plenty of ports. If you take a look at the back of it, every speaker port was banana connector compliant, right? I mean, you could plug everything into those, whereas with the new one, you only get 4 of those, and then you have to wire those up the old school way. You unscrew it, stick it in, screw it back in. You'll see what I'm talking about. I got a little clip of that. So we did pull the old receiver, and the old projector was an Epson 5030 UB 1080p projector. 9 years old. I had no issues with that puppy the entire time, and not once did I have to replace any of the bulbs. So that was good to go. What we installed was the new receiver, which is a Sony STR DH790. I'm going to have links to the new stuff in the description if you want to really check out what some of these things are capable of. The cost of the new receiver, $318. I bought that on Amazon. Also installed a new projector, the Epson 3800 home theater 4K projector. What was the cost on that guy? $1,685. So let's just say $1,700 for the projector, $318 for the receiver. Had to calibrate it, which is also cool. The 3800, once you get it in place, it has a manual focus ring, and it has a zoom ring. You know, zoomed all the way out is bigger than the entirety of my whole wall back there. So I zoom it in to fit the 92-inch screen, and then where it's off a little bit, it has the ability for you to make the adjustment to shift it up, down, left, or right. There's also a new 4K Blu-ray player. It's not here yet, but I'll tell you about it and put a link in for that. Panasonic DP-UB450, high-res surround 4K HDR10 Dolby Vision, $171. Now, I don't know why it takes so long to get that. I ordered it on Christmas Day, and it's due in between January 8th and the 15th. I may have it by time this video releases. But it wasn't critical for me because, again, I'm a Blu-ray person. Blu-rays are not 4K, they're 1080. So upgrading that was, of the 3 elements, was the least important, and I didn't need that to do the demo that I'm going to show you or to complete the upgrade. So when that guy comes in, I'll pull out the old Sony Blu-ray player and put in the 4K Blu-ray player. I'm sorry. One of the things that I had to do with this whole upgrade, update, whichever you want to call it, was I had to go from a by-wire bi-amp to non. And I talked about it briefly at the opening, but in essence, some speaker systems like mine have 2 sets of terminal posts on the back of the speaker. You wire the bottom ones to one set of ports on the receiver, the tops to the other, and it basically allows you to reduce your speaker count by 2, and supposedly the 2 in the top channels will act as your surrounds. And that's what I've been doing for about 9 years. The challenge with that is, if challenge is the right word, it is using, you know, both sets of terminals, but having your surround come from the front, because that's where the towers are, just doesn't make sense to me. So what I did in this case, as you can see, was I disconnected the by-wire, had to put in some jumpers, and then just rewired them or reconnected them in just a conventional method, which now just makes the fronts the fronts. But what that also means is I had to add the physical surrounds. Now I brought them back. I already had them, but they were in another place, another area of the house. And I don't know if you can see it right back here, but this one here on the book stand, the Monitor 40 from Polk Audio, I have two of those. Those are now just wired as surrounds. And these two could be by-wired by amp, but I'm not doing it that way. And then the other change that I made was pretty subtle, was I raised the center channel. As you can see here, it's now at ear height. I brought it up because during the process of getting the room ready, I realized that it shouldn't have been placed that low, even though it was firing up. So now the center channel is in the same place, but it's a little bit higher. So I now have 7 speakers in the theater, 2 subs, no Atmos, and it's no Atmos on purpose. And I don't have an issue with Atmos. A lot of the Blu-rays that I get are, they come with Dolby Atmos. A lot of my 4K content via the stream, love it. But, and I'm gonna talk about this in a minute. When you do your home theater, you have to do what works for you in the space that you're in. And for me, I'm not putting any new holes in the ceiling. I got the perfect room, 100% closed off, no windows. I don't think that it would make that big of a difference here. Nor am I getting the little ones, like if you look at some of those Atmoses that you can sit on top of your speakers, they fire up and come down. Not there. So when I tell you I have a 7-to-2, I have a legitimate 7-to-2, not a 7-to-2X, right? So the first number is the number of speakers, second number is the number of subs. If you have a third number, that speaks to the number of Atmos speakers. So just a regular 7-to-2, and I am fine with that. One other thing I'm going to say too is that for this room, 5-to-1 is perfect. I don't need 7-to-1. I'm not saying it's overkill, but when I bought the package of speakers 19 years ago from a place that you guys probably may not be familiar with unless you're of a certain age, a place called Circuit City, I bought a 5-to-1, and because I was buying that system, they threw in the other 2 speakers. That is the only reason that I have 7. 5-to-1 would crush in this room, and it has for a number of years. I'm just using 7 now because I have them, and I can do it. The new receiver, and the old one had this as well, allows you to calibrate the room, whereby it does this little sound pattern thing and it measures itself. It has a port right on the front of the receiver. You plug in this microphone and you sit it in what you call the sweet spot. Now, in this theater, media room, whatever you want to call it, we just got 2 seats, and I'm actually sitting in D's seat right now. Mine is there. So instead of putting the measuring device in one of the seats, I'm going to put it right here in the center of the rack. If I put it, for example, in this seat, it would know right away, and so the gains for all the different sounds will be different because these speakers are closer than the ones on the other side of the room, and vice versa. So because the room is pretty much evenly spaced out, I'm going to put it right here and let the sound do its thing. So check this out. Pretty cool, right? I like all those sounds. So it does the measurement, and if you pull it up, I'm not doing it now, but if I pull up on the screen, it will tell you the distance and the plus or minus dB for the center channel, the 2 fronts, the 2 surrounds, the 2 rears, the subs, and it's perfectly balanced now for the room. So it doesn't matter if I'm in here alone in that seat, or D's in here alone in this seat, or we're both in here together. The sound now should be perfectly calibrated for the room and for the seating pattern that I have here. With that, I'm going to give you a system demo to show you what it looks like and what it sounds like. As a reminder, I'm filming this to you right now in 4K to show you some 4K capabilities. If you're watching this on YouTube and you haven't selected 4K as the viewing method, do that right now, right? Click the sprocket, because the default I want to say for YouTube is like 720p. So if you're ready to rock and roll in 4K, I'm going to show you, I think I got 3. I'm going to do YouTube, I'm going to do an Apple TV Plus, and I'm going to do a Blu-ray. Fun fact, even though Blu-ray is 1080p and the other examples I'm going to show you are 4K, I like Blu-ray better, primarily because of the audio. It's lossless, it's not compressed. At some level, every streaming service is compressing something, if not everything. They're going to give you everything they have to give you that 4K resolution, but in a lot of cases, they're compressing the audio. Blu-ray doesn't do that. There's a ton of room on those discs, so all the audio is lossless, and for me, the audio makes the movie or the TV show, so that's why I think Blu-ray is better. But I'm going to show you these 3 demos for each one, and I'll label them as we go. So here you go.
And 50 souls. We're saying it's time for a rebellion.
So there you have that. You got a little YouTube. You got some Apple TV Plus, and a little bit more in the Blu-ray area because again, that's kind of my favorite. So now the room is ready for viewing, and I have a lot to catch up on. There's a ton of Blu-rays over in that chair, but I like the Blu-rays. I'm a big Star Trek fan. This show, I did watch season 1. This is season 2 of Strange New Worlds. Discovery is probably my favorite part of the Star Trek franchise. I've got season 4 and season 5 here, both unopened that I got to get caught up on. So no spoilers in the comments for those of you that have watched this, either positive or negative. I'm a big Michael Burnham, Captain Burnham fan. No, I have not seen Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning yet. Another TV series, Mayor of Kingstown, because I'm a huge Jeremy Renner fan. Oppenheimer, I've been hanging on to for a while because the LFE, I'm told, and the way that this whole soundtrack was done, the LFE is the the low frequencies, the stuff that comes through the subs, is crazy good on these, right? So in summary, right, there are 1,000 different ways to put your media room, theater, home theater, whatever you want to call it, together. And I don't think you have to break the bank to do that, right? One other thing I would suggest is to talk to people in your circle that have done some home theater. That's helped me a lot, right? You know, I had 3 people in particular that I talked to. My guy Rob is up in West Virginia. I think it's Berkeley, West Virginia. He's got a much bigger home theater than I do, but we used to hang out at a place called Tweeter. Doesn't exist anymore. I don't know if Best Buy is here. Tweeter, it was just next level. It was for the serious audiophile, and we used to go. Rob and I would go hang out there just to not necessarily to buy anything, but to see what the latest and greatest tech was, etc. And I bought a lot of the gear when we had the home built here in 2006. Tweeter was my consultant. I go to Rob a lot because he's an audiophile and he knows things. And we had a really good exchange about these subwoofers, particularly whether or not to place them behind the seat, because there are 2 schools of thought. You have it open or you put it behind the seat. And based on the conversation that I had with him, I'm going to leave them open. I had it open before, but I have space behind the seats because, you know, you want the sound to come from behind you. So I was considering putting the subs behind the seat. But having a conversation with somebody who knows that is really good. Charles, you saw in the highlight, he has his own home theater, really good with installations and things like that. So being able to lean on somebody like him is critically important. But I think the person that I talk to most about all of this is a buddy of mine, Duane. I can have, no fooling, a 2-3 hour conversation with Duane about the technology involved here, and he's right there. He's much more technical than I am, but we have that type of dialogue, and I just lean on him for stuff. We've probably had more conversations about streaming versus physical media, the convenience of streaming. Some say it's inconvenient to do what I do in physical media and have so many titles. I just feel that owning my own content is important. I've seen things where streaming services have made a change. I'll use Vudu as an example. I used to download some of my movies that I have on Vudu to my laptop when I take a trip. Well, now Vudu doesn't allow you to download anymore. You have to be on the internet to do that. That's a game. That's not a game. What do you call it? A showstopper for me, because I'm not paying for Wi-Fi on a flight. So if I can't download it to the laptop, it doesn't really help me. Again, I paid for those movies that I have in my Vudu account, so I supposedly own them. I can't even download them. So that's one of the things that I struggle with the consideration of going all streaming, because they could change, they could go out of business, they could do any of that stuff, and now all my content would be at the mercy of them. So for me, the cost of physical media is inexpensive. The amount of data that they're pushing in here is significant. But my point with all that is, I can have that kind of conversation with Duane because he understands the technology of it, and that's what I think you should do. If you're considering doing something like this, or if you have something like it and you're kind of thinking about doing something else with it, talk to those around you that have already done it. One thing I'll say is this: if I were starting today, home theater, in this very room today in 2025, I would not have a projector, nor would I have the really nice screen. Today you can get a 98-inch flat screen TV that's really, really good for about $1,800. I would do that today. In other words, instead of a $2,300 screen and a $1,700 projector, that's 4K right there. 4K. See what I did there? 4K. Anyway, that's 4K right there. You could do the entirety of that piece for less than $2,000. And here's the thing, and I'm going to say this as someone who goes with projectors. I don't care how good the projector is. I don't think that the picture quality is going to be nearly as tight or as sharp as a flat screen. If you have it in your budget to get an AV rack, this Sanus cost me $450 9 years ago, and I think it just keeps everything in one place. It keeps it neat. The most important component in here, as far as I'm concerned, is the power conditioner. You know, having an 11 port, it's an 11 outlet power conditioner, some switch, some non-switch, but it keeps the power clean, and it gives you a readout at the bottom for everything that you're doing, and it'll protect all your gear in the event that you suffer some type of an outage. In this upgrade, the total that I spent was $2,171 between the projector, the new Blu-ray, the 4K Blu-ray, and the receiver. It's been an investment, but it's been an investment in something that's important to me and important to Dee, because again, we like movies, and we like to watch it at a very, very high level. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed it. I know it was a little bit long, but I had a lot of information that I wanted to go through. So until we talk next time, cheers to you guys. Hope you have a great 2025. Happy New Year. Thanks for watching.